You're listening to In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio on WGDR 91.1 and WGDH 91.7.
Good morning, Canna friends and Canna foes. You are tuned in to In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio. We'd like to thank you and welcome, I guess, us to a new time slot, really. Right?
So, here we go again.
Yeah, right? So, for you guys that don't know and are new to tuning into us at the slot, we are an all-cannabis talk show. We go over education, gray area matter, laws, recent amendments, pretty much everything cannabis, right, on an educational standpoint. You guys can always call us in. This is a call-in talk show, 802-454-7762, where you can talk to myself, Joseph Smith, and my co-host, Brandon Barberio, our OLCC certified cannabis expert from Arizona. Brandon, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. I am just loving life right now. The sun is out. It's gorgeous. However, it's going to be like 106 today, so, you know.
I was just gonna say I kind of am missing the news, the weather intro, man. We're missing Weather with Bob, man. We should get Weather with Bob back with us. But anyways,
there you go.
We have a great show for you guys. Don't go anywhere. We have Joe Passy from CannaMountain Incorporated. We have a lot to talk about with you. Then we also have Joe Souza from I Think I've Created a Monster. But before we get to these guys, we are going to go right to our Canna News. This is Joseph Smith of In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio with your local and national Canna News for July 5th, 2019. Maine rolls out some of the strictest cannabis regulations in the country. Maine is finally ready to allow legal adult use cannabis sales to begin next spring, nearly 3.5 years after the state had voted for legalization. After seemingly endless revisions, lawmakers just barely managed to pass a bill governing the state's adult use market before their legislative season has ended on June 20th. Last Thursday, Governor Janet Mills signed this long overdue bill into law. It has taken an exceptionally long time for the state to honor the will of its voters who approved adult use legalization via a ballot measure back in 2016. Former Governor Paul LePage, a vocal opponent of legalization, vetoed lawmakers' proposed sales regulations 2 years in a row. Implementing these new laws doesn't mean Maine will be dripping in legal herb. However, in fact, the state is actually imposing some of the toughest residency requirements the cannabis industry's ever seen. Regulators will only grant licenses to applicants who have lived in Maine for at least 4 years. Lawmakers also tried to prevent out-of-state companies from gaining control over the market, but eventually chose to back down on this restriction. Washington State has similar residency requirements, but only requires applicants to have lived in the state for 6 months. Unlike other adult use states that allow local governments to opt out of allowing legal pot businesses to open in their jurisdictions, Maine requires individual municipalities to opt in to the legal weed market. To date, only 15 of the state's 455 municipalities have done so. But more local governments have decided to move forward now that the regulations are finalized. Scientists sue the DEA for delayed weed research. A collective of researchers have filed a lawsuit against the Drug Enforcement Administration demanding a response to their 3-year-old application to grow cannabis for research purposes. The federal government has been providing cannabis to U.S. scientists ever since 1968, but the government-sanctioned grass is notorious for being some of the lowest quality cannabis that researchers have ever encountered. The quality of this product, which is apparently full of stems, seeds, mold, and pathogens, is so bad that many researchers have flat out rejected it for fear it would destroy the validity of their research. Earlier this year, researchers at the University of Northern Colorado discovered that the government weed is significantly lower in both THC and CBD than legal or black market cannabis, and it's more genetically closer to hemp than it is to marijuana. The low-quality government cannabis is produced on one single farm operated by the University of Mississippi, the only institution that the DEA has authorized to grow cannabis for research purposes. As the interest in medical cannabis has skyrocketed over the years, scientists have begged the feds to allow other non-government cultivators to create quality product that they can actually use for their research. In 2016, the DEA conceded and began accepting applications from cultivators. The agency accepted 25 applicants, but former U.S. Attorney General Jeff Sessions reportedly put the brakes on this process as part of his personal war on cannabis. A year later, the DEA announced that these applicants are still under review. Scientists and legislators wrote countless angry letters to the DEA and Sessions demanding that these applications be considered. Another year came and went without any progress. Last August, the DEA authorized the cultivation of 54,000 pounds of research cannabis, more than 5 times the amount it authorized in previous years. The research community assumed that this announcement would entail the approval of additional growers, as the massive increase in production seemed beyond the capabilities of the University of Mississippi. After 11 months have passed, the DEA has yet to approve any additional growers. Frustrated by the endless delays, the Scottsdale Research Institute has filed a lawsuit demanding that the agency fully review the cultivation applications that it submitted nearly 3 years ago. The suit asks a federal judge to force the DEA or the Attorney General to respond to this application within 3 months. While the U.S. government does its best to underhandedly undermine legitimate scientific research into cannabis, other countries such as Canada and Israel not only encourage studies with high-quality buds, these nations' governments actively subsidize beneficial cannabis research, too. Professional golfer suspended for medical cannabis, asked PGA to drop cannabis ban. A professional golfer who received a 3-month suspension after testing positive for THC in March is making a case to remove cannabis from the Professional Golfers Association list of banned substances. Robert Garrigus told Golf Channel that he used medical cannabis to treat back and knee pain in compliance with state law in Washington. He said performance-enhancing substances that give players an unfair advantage should remain prohibited, but everything else should be in the discussion. Now that he's back in the game, Garrigus had said that he is meeting with PGA Tour Commissioner Jay Monahan next week to discuss the league's drug policy. He's aiming to open dialogue about creating an exception for marijuana given its legal status in the states throughout the country. He argued that the cannabis does not help you get into a hole, unlike other banned substances, such as human growth hormone. And while he's ceased using medical cannabis, Garrigus said he should be an option available to players. For the time being, however, the PGA doesn't seem interested in carving out an exception for cannabis. USDA head is worried that farmers will grow too much hemp. The head of the U.S. Department of Agriculture said on Tuesday that he's worried that the strong interest in hemp could drive farmers to cultivate too much of the crop once regulations are in place. Agriculture Secretary Sonny Perdue said earlier this week toured a Kentucky hemp farm alongside Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, said that there's a lot of interest nationwide in hemp and that it could prove to be a real salvation-type crop for farmers along the way. But farmers are so productive, I'm concerned that they will overproduce like they do a lot of things in the way, and the price will go down. Though regulations for industrial hemp under the 2018 Farm Bill, which federally legalized the crop and its derivatives, have yet to be issued, farmers cultivating it under a pilot research program established under previous versions of the agricultural legislation have seen record yields. Farmers grew more than 78,000 acres of hemp in 2018, which is about 50,000 more acres than they produced in 2017. USDA says it isn't rushing into the rulemaking process, but it expects to release regulations before the 2020 planting season. The department set a target deadline of August to release its interim final rule on the crop. But farmers aren't sitting on their hands in the meantime. And in 2019 is expected to see another significant uptick in hemp cultivation in states across the country. Perdue said that McConnell, who successfully championed hemp legalization, stirred the pot on the issue and generated widespread interest in the commercial potential of hemp. Asked whether farmers would stand to benefit from federal legalization, he dismissed the idea that marijuana, unlike hemp, would be a boon for the agriculture industry. He pointed to Oregon, which is struggling with an oversupply of cannabis, as an example. I don't anticipate a legalization federally of that, and I don't know that our farmers really want that or need that, he said. Our farmers are looking for a good crop that they can do it right and beat everybody. That said, there's no denying that demand for marijuana in legal states is reshaping individual agricultural economies. Purdue said that in California, greenhouses that were once dedicated to growing things like flowers have been taken over by cannabis. That's the kind of impact you get, he said. Police seize 19,000 cannabis plants in Siskiyou County, California. According to a News 10 report, law enforcement officials in Siskiyou County, California have seized 19,088 illegally grown cannabis plants in the last month. The actions were led by the Siskiyou Integrity Marijuana Investigation Team along with county sheriffs and the California Army National Guard's counter-drug unit. During a June 21 raid, 4,824 plants and 454 pounds of processed cannabis products were seized from 11 Mount Shasta Vista properties. Officials estimate that the crop would total between $28.9 million and $43.4 million on the illicit market, while each plant, while they estimate would net about 3 pounds, would be worth up to $3,000 in legal retail markets. In a raid a week prior, law enforcement officers seized 2,818 plants from another Mount Shasta Vista site. Other actions in the area netted officers 139 pounds of processed cannabis worth between $278,000 and $417,000. The region is designated by the U.S. Department of Justice as a high-intensity drug trafficking area, according to Sheriff John Lope. County officials have banned all outdoor cultivation, and medical cannabis patients can grow up to 12 plants and a non-medical users up to 6 inside an approved structure, he said. Officials throughout California have taken different approaches to curbing illegal markets since voters passed legalization law in June 2016. In April, Los Angeles filed its first civil lawsuit against an unlicensed dispensary and is seeking $20,000 per day that the shop operated without a license. In all, about $7.5 million. The Bureau of Cannabis Control has also cracked down on illegal operators with fines and arrests. In February, Governor Gavin Newsom signed an order to redeploy 360 of the state's National Guard troops to combat the state's illegal cannabis trade. Researchers seek veterans for a national survey on cannabis. Researchers hope that a national cannabis survey for the U.S. military veterans will help educate elected officials, government department heads, and the public about the health benefits of cannabis used by those who serve in the military. In March 2019, a coalition of academic, medical, and veterans groups launched the Veterans Health and Medical Cannabis Research Study to understand veterans' health statuses, treatments, medications, cannabis use, access to insurance, and their quality of life. Preliminary data from the anonymous study, which includes no identifying details about respondents, already has shown that veterans are reducing the need for over-the-counter prescriptions for pain, stomach ailments, and reducing or eliminating the use of opioids for chronic pain. Though the veterans group nationwide have pushed the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs to employ medical cannabis treatments, particularly for post-traumatic stress syndrome, the agency follows federal law, which considers cannabis an illegal narcotic with no medical value. A series of public reforms, the Cannabis Advancement Series, is traveling throughout Massachusetts to present findings and a related study information from experts such as Dr. Sue Sisley, who recently completed the first federally funded clinical trial for cannabis as a PTSD treatment for veterans. The University of Maryland is launching a graduate degree in cannabis. The University of Maryland will be the first university in the United States to offer a graduate degree in medical cannabis. The Master of Science in Medical Cannabis Science and Therapeutics will offer students the opportunity to not only learn how to treat medical marijuana patients, but to also work on research in the field to help potentially shape medical cannabis policy going forward through a 2-year program. Medical cannabis has been legalized in 33 states, including Maryland, as well as Washington, D.C., Guam, and Puerto Rico, says Natalie Eddington, Ph.D., FCP, FAAPS, Dean and Professor at UMSOP. The number is only expected to increase in the future, fueling a demand for an educated workforce that is well-trained in both science and therapeutic efforts associated with the medicinal plant. Our MS in Medical Cannabis Science and Therapeutics has been critically designed to prepare students to meet this demand. Innovations in instruction design throughout the curriculum will provide students with the knowledge and skills needed to make a positive impact on communities across the United States. The program will be the first graduate program in the country to be focused specifically on medical cannabis. It plans to cater to anyone with an undergraduate degree that wants to work in the medical cannabis space, specifically knowing that the program is right for healthcare professionals as well as growers and industry professionals. And that's it for your local and national Canna News for July 5th, 2019. All right, and now we are back. So, guys, we do have, again, a great show. Just a real quick thing. We are part of Goddard College Community Radio. We are in a fundraiser of such. We are close to our goal. I just want to give everybody a big shout-out who has donated to the station so far. But we are community-based radio. All of our programmers do our shows. We all volunteer, but we do need your support to keep the shows going. And if you can, contact WGDR.org, reach out to the station, and give us a little donation. Or if you're interested in underwriting a show like ours or any of our other shows that are on the station, you can reach out as well and just underwrite one of our shows and then become part of the family. But now we're going to start our show in the weeds. We have Joe Passy, who's in studio. We also have Joe Souza, who's on the phone. Joe, are you there?
I am here. How's it going, guys?
Good, man. Good. So, Joe Souza, we have a lot of Joes in the studio today, so let's not get confused.
Days, yeah.
Yeah, no, it really is. So Joe Souza, awesome story here, right? He is the creative mind behind I Think I've Created a Monstah. If you guys haven't seen or heard about it yet, it's amazing. Little sculptures, plaques, magnets, pendants, jars. So, you know, the first time I met Joe, it was in the comic book world, right? The next time I meet Joe, it's in the cannabis world. So, Joe, tell us about I Think I've Created a Monstah, who you are and where you're from.
Well, I'm out of Tiverton, Rhode Island. I've been an artist my whole life. I grew up a lot around comic books. My father collected a lot of comic books when I was younger, so I pretty much had access to them all the time. That and monster movies. I don't know if you guys had Creature Double Feature up in Vermont, but my local TV station carried the show, and it would play Godzilla and stuff like that in the morning. So it definitely shaped, my love of monsters and comic books and stuff along those lines. So when I got older, I, started doing some sculpting, and there was no internet still at this point, so it was hard to get materials, and I didn't have too much money, so newspaper and papier-mâché was pretty easy to come by, so I started with that. I actually started making movies, cheap, like B-horror movies, kind of like trauma films, if you've heard of them, like
right.
The Toxic Avenger, stuff like that. Those really over-the-top, just grotesque, really silly kind of movies with no writing and I wouldn't want to say no writing, but just ridiculous writing and plot lines. And we just make these big monsters and destroy them on camera. And sooner or later, people started asking if they could buy the monsters themselves. So I started venturing out doing craft shows, stuff like that.
And that's how it started, huh?
It's amazing. Right?
Yeah, it was. I was still pretty young at the time, probably around 18, maybe 20-ish, and I couldn't really afford to do to risk $100 at the time to do a show would have been like all my spending money for the week. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was like looking for these cheaper church shows where I was sitting in the middle of this nicer woman that had doilies and another woman selling sea glass, and here I am with these monsters, trying to sell them at these shows. So
right.
It was hit and miss. It was quite the experience,
No, man, it's in that. So you're making these cool things. Now you make them in a neat way, right? So it's not paper mache, right? It's
over the years, yeah, it evolved mostly into cloth. I started learning a couple techniques with using cloth. I guess just really texture that I fell in love with that really paints out well. That's pretty, I would say, unique to my monsters. It's a texture you can't mold because it has a lot of what they call undercutting, where your mold would get stuck underneath and you couldn't pull that kind of depth and detail out of a mold. So it really gives it a unique look, I feel.
Mm. And so, I mean, I've seen these things firsthand. I actually own one. I probably have one in my bag here somewhere.
Well, there must be a website for them, or you can see them.
Well, there's definitely a website. So Joe, where can people check these things out? You're pretty much all over the internet.
Probably by Facebook. In Facebook, I think I've created a Monstah. And there's no R down here in Rhode Island, so it says Monstah, M-O-N-S-T-A-H.
That's the New England spelling?
Exactly.
So
when we travel down to Georgia, we kind of have to explain it sometimes.
Yeah, right. So now you've been doing this, right? we talked, you're making the venture into the cannabis world, right? Because these things are really cool, right? I have one as a jar, you know what I mean?
The culture's mix,
Yeah.
they do.
It's a great mix. But not only are you an artist who are making these things, but you're also a patient, correct?
I'm a caregiver myself. And my girlfriend's a patient.
So now, how long have you been a caregiver for?
I'm going to say about 12 years now.
So you've been doing caregiving for about 12 years. I mean, obviously, in the recent few years, it's been a crazy explosion in the East Coast for cannabis, right? The acceptance of cannabis, right?
The acceptance, the availability, just what people think about it, definitely.
Rhode Island was up there early, though, if I recall.
Yeah, we were really early, exactly.
So, so now in 12 years, like we were just saying, Rhode Island was one of the first ones to go for the, Vermont and Rhode Island were the first guys to pioneer medical cannabis, right? The caregiving, things of that nature. What's the biggest thing you've seen?
For the East Coast, yeah.
Yeah, what's the biggest change you've seen? 12 years ago was vastly different, right? You didn't want anybody knowing who you were.
I would say that, over the past 12 years, even myself trying to change that, stigma that comes with it. And, when I first started doing the jars themselves, I didn't want to market them to the cannabis world just because I guess I wouldn't have been taken seriously, I thought. Mm-hmm. I would have kind of, marketed myself as a pothead, and I just didn't want that because I just assumed that at the time everybody, thought of anyone who would use this as just, the old stereotypical hippie, pothead type of person.
Right.
And I just didn't want to get that stigma on my stuff. So I didn't discourage it, but I didn't, drop 420 tags on my social media and advertise them as stash jars. But there was no doubt that's what everyone was using them for. That's where I get the idea myself for my own jars.
And this whole time you resided in Rhode Island, right?
Yes, I've always been in Rhode Island.
Yeah. So, Rhode Island, still upon legality, it's interesting down there, isn't it?
It's only medical, I believe, right?
Especially since I'm on a border town, so I can literally walk to Fall River, Massachusetts, where there's a legal recreational dispensary.
Right.
And it blows my mind to see, in the rain, people outside in the line, just longer than the building itself. I'm like, where did these people get their, meds before or their marijuana before? Did no one not know how to get this stuff? So that's my biggest explosion I've seen mostly is just the availability of it everywhere now down here. Whether it's medicinal in Rhode Island or just people going,
we're just at the beginning of that. We're just at the beginning of that, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Especially in my state of Massachusetts, we are just at the beginning.
In Mass, it's been almost a year now, right?
A couple of years, actually.
Right. Well, since we got our dispensaries up and running, right?
But 2 years before that, we waited.
Yeah, just like Maine. Now we got Maine's rolling out. They wait through, 2-3 years as well. But, we were just talking earlier. Mass is full speed ahead right now. They're opening up dispensaries seems like every other day.
Moving, and every day it seems it's going to be moving quicker in different areas.
Yeah, so it's interesting in that aspect. So getting back to, I think I've created Monstah, right? So you've been in the cannabis industry a long time, which is, what you were just describing is really interesting to me because, it's, here we are talking about stigmas, right?
Yeah.
Where, obviously, Joe, you were within the stigma. You were within the medical community 12 years ago, right? Today, how do you feel about today? What's it feel like to you to be able to go out to an event like these NECANs that we see you at and interact with these people?
It blows my mind. It really does. I love it, and it's something that I've been fighting for my whole adult life. I'm 43 years old, and I've been a recreational user ever since I was a kid. And so we've always tried to get the awareness of this plant out there. So I'm glad to see that people are actually taking the time to look into studying it and seeing what this plant can do and actually benefit from it. So I'm seeing that lifted, and especially since I've just totally got rid of my stigma personally of not wanting to embrace, the culture that I grew up in and who formed me. I followed the Grateful Dead when I was younger. I went out to the West Coast. I did a tour. I was turned on to all these older, artists and, the psychedelic art and stuff like that. So that all shaped the art that I do now. So the fact that I even thought about not trying to market it in that world just because I didn't want to be branded some pothead stoner, kind of look back at it and laugh at myself, I guess, you know? Should have just went in right from the start, guns a-blazing.
Now,
you know what I mean?
Now it's a badge of honor almost.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost kind of like I don't want to be that because everybody's out there, you know? Like,
right.
But now, I mean, do you think it would have been this? Do you think you've had the same impact in the last year if you rolled it out earlier in the cannabis industry? I mean, I think rolling it out into your comic book industry was the way to go because now we're starting to see that blend of comic and cannabis, right? We have Comic Cons that have cannabis involved with them, CBD stores, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's definitely starting to meld, without a doubt.
Now, as a comic book guy, cannabis, right? Is there a big cross with comics?
Definitely, without a doubt. I mean, even before this whole cannabis explosion, the DC universe back when they started losing a lot of, readers, and Marvel was really starting to pick up. They started targeting a larger audience, which was the Vertigo universe. And they put, like, Johnny, I can't remember his name right now, John Constantine from Hellblazer, the Swamp Thing. More darker, more adult-oriented thing. Right. And it wasn't uncommon for Swamp Thing to come in with the pot plant and just make it grow into a fully mature plant in, like, one night and them all get, blazed out. Stuff like that before they go out fight crime or look for satanic ritual monsters or something like that.
I mean, it is blown up because we have, like, the Token Dead, right? Our friends at Token Dead, they've been on the show a few times. They are killing it right now. I met them, at the Comic-Con, and they're coming out with a great idea, and, and it's definitely going to educate some more people and they're going to hit the Comic-Con people, the horror people, and, of course, the cannabis industry, which all cross over. Yeah, now they're getting the movies, and it's an explosion we're going to see in every industry, I think, right? I mean... Yep. Literally, definitely. Everybody has a tie to it, whether it's apparel, whether it's medicine, whether it's comic books. Movies have been involved with cannabis forever.
All you have to look, all you have to do is look at the partnership of Snoop Dogg and Martha Stewart.
Yeah, right? That explains everything,
that
right?
partnership tells you everything.
Yep. And the best part is they have a cooking show together, right?
Right?
Yep.
I've always been a huge fan of Martha Stewart. I mean, she can garden, she can cook, she can craft. She went to jail before she admitted she was wrong.
And she rips, too.
Yeah, right?
She's kind of good in my eyes.
Right? She didn't throw anybody under the bus. She took her time, right? She came out. She did it right.
Exactly,
So
picked a good partner, too.
Right? Dude, but to see those guys, like, work together on a show or talk, it is hilarious.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's got the most respect for her. And, like, how can you not respect Martha, man, right?
Or Snoop. I just went to see him at Foxwoods. He did a DJ gig, about a week ago? What did he got? Snoopadelic? DJ Snoopadelic, yeah.
That was what it was?
He came in $40 a head at the Shrine over there at Foxwoods. He was in for an hour, so what do you make, 20 grand in an hour?
Oh, probably easily, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
He's doing a good job. He's putting bread on the table.
I don't think he needed that gig to do it, but
Right.
But I mean, he's coming next week, too.
Up your way,
we're
right?
We're going to go see him next week, right? You'll be there. I'll be there. It's going to be a lot of fun. So,
with who? Ice-T, right?
No, it's, it was, I can't even think right now. So you guys get me all...
I'm pretty sure I saw Ice-T's name in there.
Was it Ice-T?
I don't know.
I know.
That'd be a good show either way.
I know, my buddy...
Yeah, I definitely can't help you on this one, guys.
Yeah, right?
I'm Googling now.
My buddy just keeps sending me all the information for it. He's like, here's these great tickets. I'm like, just buy them.
Well, it's right up here near you.
Well, it's in Manchester, New Hampshire, so if you guys are around, check that out. All right, guys, we're going to have to go to a break right here. We are on the phone with Joe Souza from I Think I've Created Monstah. If you guys want to check him out, Joe, tell everybody where they can find you.
I think I've created a Monstah.com. Like I said, there's no R's down in this part of New England, so it's MONSTAH!.com.
All right. You guys can find him there. You can find him at all sorts of cannabis events, comic book events. When's your next event, Joe?
Actually, we're going to meet up with the Token Dead this weekend at Boxborough Collectible Extravaganza at the Boxborough Regency in Massachusetts.
And we were there last year, and it's a great show, guys. So if you guys are in the area and you're looking to go out, you grab your kids. It is a kid-friendly event. They got all sorts of people, characters walking around, people you can meet. Last year they had Gilbert Gottfried. They had Bill Diamond. They had all sorts of different guys. Roger.
Yep, we got John O'Hurley this year from Seinfeld. Not really sure who else, but there'll definitely be some cosplayers, a lot of collectibles, a lot of vendors, and definitely a good family fun time. Escape the heat, escape the rain.
Yeah, and go get yourself a Monstah from I Think I've Created a Monstah.
Definitely. Just stop by, say hi.
Right? Definitely. I mean, the guys, I can't explain how great and how artistic these things are. Like I said, I own one, and I can only hope to afford a bigger one someday. But check them out. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. We're going to do Strain of the Week with our host, Brendan Barberio.
I'm Brendan Barberio, your cannabis expert from the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio on WGDR. This week's strain of the week is the Blueberry Silvertip. The Blueberry Silvertip is an evenly balanced 50-50 indica sativa strain, and is created by crossing the blueberry with the Montana Silvertip strains. Although this bud is rare, the THC levels have never been measured. However, the CBD levels are said to come in at an impressive 20%. Even though this bud is scarcely found in the market, it is highly sought after for its fruity-type flavors and euphoric-type feelings. With the parents of the blueberry and the silvertip, its mouth-watering taste of ripe blueberries and a hint of sage lasts for a long time. The aroma is absolutely amazing with an earthy, herby, and flower-type taste, and the berries and tropical fruits that surround your mouth in its effects. The high starts with a euphoric lift and leaves you slightly energized with loads of creativity. With such high amount of THC and CBD, this bud is perfect for treating chronic pain, migraines, chronic stress, anxiety, insomnia. Blueberry Silvertip bud is lumpy and it has light green nugs with bright green leaves and orange hairs and a thick covering of white crystals. Once again, I'm Brendan Barberio, your cannabis expert for In the Weeds Prohibition Talk Radio on WGDR.
All right, and we are back. That was another great strain of the week, the Blueberry Silvertip.
I like anything with blueberry.
Right? So, I mean, that's a funny strain that we talk about, right?
Yeah.
So, for me personally, the blueberry strain by itself, not a huge fan. Yeah. The blueberry strain mixed with something, crossed with something.
Well, there's a lot of those.
Great, yeah. Right?
Right?
I've never been a fan of just blueberry itself. It was better tasting than effective, I would say.
Yeah, the same way for me. Maybe it was because I had different expectation the first time I ever tried it. I was like, wow, this really... But then one of the last strains I tried with it was a blueberry cheese, and that was simply amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
I mean,
not that I smoke
do
cannabis.
A pretty hard search for the silvertip off the West Coast, but I can't really find it outside of like a New Mexico, Arizona type of like area. But that's what causes the high level of CBD really to come through in the cross of the hybrid, and that's really what people are looking for.
Right.
There's a huge market really right now for CBD extraction from cannabis as opposed to hemp, because there are a lot of people in the testing that's going on out here, like Berkeley and stuff. They're finding that it's just so much more medicinal because, there's also an article that goes along with this that Rick Simpson just released called THC is the Cure. So, I mean, you put those two things together, and clearly that's why people are beating cancer.
Well, I mean, that was a big debate for a while now, right? Like whether it's THC, whether it's CBD,
or a
combination, right? And what's that ratio? Is it a 1-to-1? Is it?
That's a great segue into research,
right?
Yeah, I mean, we all know that it works different for every single person, but the status quo, is the 1-to-1s, 1-to-2s, 1-to-3s. And then the people that are really looking for real RSO, I mean, they're basically getting like the black sludge, I mean, that's really strong. Those are close to like 5,000 milligrams. Mm-hmm. So it really depends on what it is that you're working on, you know what I mean, or what it is that you're trying to combat.
Well, even with like the RSO, the Rick Simpson theory is high amounts of THC fast, right?
Yep. Yeah, it is. And even though obviously psychosis is a part of that, they feel that it really does produce a better result. There is this So there's this study that's going on about CBN. And basically how you create CBN is by heating up THC, if you will.
Right.
And in that process, it literally creates CBN. Now, CBN is basically why everyone is now becoming fascinated with this, is because they're seeing it as such a huge sleep aid and a really huge, like, calming agent, just like an indica basically would be. And they're finding that the more, like the indica dominant strains, if you will, when you are vaping them or smoking them, in that action, you are creating more CBN because of the chemical transformation that's happening. So you can literally use that to your advantage in order to treat so many different things. And I think that's why the silver tip was important, because that level of CBD is just going to help to be a catalyst, basically, to carry more CBN. So it's going to affect you better. And I don't think that that bud has a very high level of THC at all. I think it comes in at like 10% or 13%. So, yeah.
So, I mean, but that's where, you know, it's kind of funny because for years we talked about engineering the heck out of this plant to get, THC, right? Now we're kind of focusing on the CBD or
that's
mainly
why
the
we need more
cannabinoids,
research, right? This is why we need more research.
Right. But like, you know, I mean, we just discussed in the news this morning, research, right? There's only one place that allows research in the United States. A lot of people don't get this, right? The University of
Kentucky?
No, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, on the hemp side is Kentucky.
Hemp side is Kentucky. Missouri, I think it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Missouri.
So, I mean, but the problem is they're having is, you know, they're growing. I mean, and, you know, even like this, the news was saying that, you know, the scientists aren't even wanting to work with this cannabis because it's just grown so bad. You know what I mean? They're fighting mold issues. They're fighting seeds, and they got stems. It's just a low quality, you know, more comparative to industrial hemp than cannabis, right?
That's going to change. And you know who's going to help us make that change is our veterans.
Yeah.
That's going to change because as soon as we start giving them cannabis, we have to give them quality.
Right.
Okay? And they know quality.
Well,
okay.
Here comes a problem with this, right? The veterans, right? So we keep hearing about the veterans. Everyone's fighting for the veterans, right? But it seems like the government will not allow testing or anything to proceed, right? The head of the Veterans Association is not at all interested in going after any sort of this research because until it's federally legal, he has no interest in pursuing this, right? We've talked about this multiple times. We've had veterans on that are explaining the struggles that they have and how much THC
they're frustrated.
or cannabis really is helping them, right? And with a veteran, there's multiple ways that these plants help them, not just with, you know, anxiety, PTSD, a whole slew of things, right? Like I don't know how these guys don't qualify in every state that they're in and just go get their card and don't pursue the VA, right? But then again, now we're talking about a costly, you know,
the prohibition is messy. The prohibition is messy, and we have to end it. That's just as simple as that, basically.
Yeah. I mean, and I'll say it, you know, that kills the pharmaceutical company. That's what happens. The VA goes to a cannabis regiment. That's it, man. They lose it all right there because they can do the exact same thing with cannabinoids as they can do with pharmaceuticals, and it's just going to kill all that government money.
Well, it's going to be shifted. It's not going to be killed. It's going to be into new kind of research.
Right, exactly.
I mean, yeah, as long as it's not going to the pharmaceutical companies, I hope that they are
but that's
wise enough to repurpose that money. Yeah, definitely.
About this.
Well, so, I mean, you make a great point. Like, it's going to get shifted, but the problem is, you know, the pharmaceutical is so big. Where do you think it's going to get shifted to? Right into the other wing of their department. They're just going to set up a cannabis section, right?
That's what I was going to say. It's just going to get shifted to another big company that's going to take it over.
Right. I mean, how can you know? There's a lot of these guys. I mean, even Harvard right now is back in.
They're doing a study. I think I heard that too.
They've got like 3 or 4 studies going on that they're financially backing. So there's a lot of private institutions backing these things.
I heard the Indians in Connecticut.
Yeah.
Right, Mohegan. Foxwoods are doing something. I heard.
Yeah, Foxwoods is backing another. They're financially backing something to do with it
has to do with opioids research.
Yes, there it is.
Well,
And now, I just read an article too that the Native Americans, right? One of their tribes is doing another big research project as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of private funded research going on right now, but, does the government take that research and accept it? You know what I mean? Because it's not government research.
They should. I mean, come on, our Constitution's printed on hemp paper. There was one point in the United States where that if you didn't produce hemp, it was against the law.
I know, that was just on my Facebook feed this week.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
Come on.
I know.
Let's really get back to the source, and that really is the source.
Right.
It's amazing textile. It's amazing medicine.
Our tagline on CannaMountain is, it's all about the planet and it's all about the plant.
Right. Well, now, okay, so here, this brings up another great question. Before we introduce you, Joe, as we're just kind of doing a roundtable discussion here, part of the news this morning was the head of the Department of Agriculture is worried that, we're going to do the same thing that, cannabis is doing in Oregon right now with hemp across the country. Like, everybody's going to jump on the bandwagon. Everybody's going to make room for this crop. They're going to wipe out other crops that they're growing now to grow hemp. And then we're going to have this abundance of hemp, and then we're not going to have flowers. You know what I mean? What do you think about that?
Where do they get these ideas? That's what I want to know.
Right?
Seriously, how out of the box is that idea?
Well, I mean,
Really?
it's not a bad question, I'm going to say, because I mean, even in the, for me personally, we go to events all the time, right? And I meet these farmers that were like, "Oh my God, hemp! I can make money," right? So they clear room for it. They throw the seeds in the ground. They do everything. They get to the point of curing it or cutting it. And they don't know what to do. They don't know where to go with it, right?
Yep.
One of our biggest problems in America when we want to talk about hemp is our industrial hemp. We only have one place that can process it. Right? All of it goes to China. So anything you're buying with a hemp-made product that has a fiber in it, like your clothing, your sneakers. I have a pair of sneakers. That's Chinese-made hemp. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we can't process it in this country until...
Of course, it's only been technically legal for 8 months.
True. So
huge general tip. Any investors out there, if you want to open a cannabis processing farm, you're going to be a billionaire overnight.
Well, that's
just
where
saying.
That's where
It's funny you should mention that too.
Get rid of CBDs.
Yeah, no, we need it. So Texas came out a couple of weeks ago and said, a big screw you to the government. We're going to do this, right?
Yeah.
We're going to go after 100%. We're setting up processing. We're setting up manufacturing. We're setting up fields, and we're going for it, right? I think that's great. But that's our biggest problem is, unless we're using it for something specific or somebody's buying it, it's hard to get rid of, really, at this point, right? Because we're not producing our own textiles here in
Obviously,
America.
right.
When that date comes, I think it's going to be a huge industry for us. Will it bring down our prices of clothes?
Paper?
Now we're looking at huge
just paper?
tariffs with China. You know what I mean? So what's this costing us on our products right now?
Right.
And then... paper is the big thing, right?
Paper's a big thing.
Yeah.
We're looking at that right
Huge.
now.
What about biodegradables?
Industrial.
Oh, my goodness.
So the my
If we
biggest...
can do industrial hemp processing the way that we used to in this country before everything was switched over to cotton, we would literally become almost self-sustainable in a whole new way.
The good news is...
And I think that's another thing that they're scared of too, if you will. They don't want us to be self-sustainable because this plant gives us ability to do that.
On many levels.
Yeah, but they can't stop this train.
No, well, that's the thing. And so it's like either you get on or it's going to happen. You know what I mean? It'll be really awkward to see like half the states in the country legalized and half the states not. You know what I mean? Or have what's going to happen with the government? Are they going to back down? Are they going to set up regulations? Are they going to have stipulations? You know what I mean? Are they just going to revert amendments? You know what I mean? What's the government going to do? Nobody knows.
I mean, best case scenario, they decriminalize, they remove it from the schedule, and they just let the states regulate what they want. Now, they can still make money off of cannabis. I know that the federal government wants to make money off of cannabis. Okay, so there's reason why $3.2 billion sales are going on, and we don't even have a regulatory system federally in the United States. They're planning for it. They know it's coming. They just want to be on that jump. They want to be ahead of that curve.
Right.
Well, the curve is money, but they're not. But are they now? You know what I mean? Like, look around. How many states do we have that are decriminalized now? Let's not talk about legalized, or let's not talk about medical. But how many states do we now have that are decriminalized?
There's only about 8 or 9 that aren't.
Right. You know what I mean? I mean, some of these legal states, they're decriminalizing before they're even allowing recreational cannabis, which is great. You know what I mean? And then we have these states that are legal that are not decriminalized, which just kills me. But
right. Well, it's like you just said, the Department of Agriculture is worried that we're basically going to overgrow too much hemp, right?
Right.
So let's use this little model. We know Oregon's sitting on, 350 million metric tons of cannabis for shipment, okay? They could pretty much just boom and start shipping out to all these states that are legal, all right? That's going to go quick. It's going to go real quick.
I was going to say earlier, the good news is this is a farming operation. This is processing like cotton. This could be upsized and up and running very quick, very soon. I mean, product can be coming off in months.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not rocket science.
No, and they're scared.
Again, they're not going to be able to stop this train.
But the thing is now, though, is like, you're talking months. How many businesses are right now creating hemp? So it wouldn't even be that long. It's just a quick shift. And you know what I mean? We could have products out on shelves in a week. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So we're talking about all this, and now we got all of us Joes here and Brandon. Let's talk about Mass real quick. Now we're just kind of throwing everything on the table. Yeah. Massachusetts. What about the CBD regulations? How do we feel about this? So for you guys, the listeners that don't know, if you haven't been paying attention to the Massachusetts market, about a week ago they came out and said that they pulled the same thing that Maine kind of did. They said, we're going to follow the guidelines set up by the
feds.
Yeah, basically by the feds, right? The Farm Act 2018, and in the Farm Act, it doesn't allow CBD to be in basically a consumable product. Anything you ingest in your mouth, you can use it as a topical. You can use it in pretty much any other aspect, but something that you ingest.
Did it happen here too?
Was it specifically hemp-derived CBD though?
What is that, Joe?
If I recall, I believe it's just specifically hemp-derived CBD, that if it's actually isolated from the marijuana plant, that it's fine.
Absolutely.
But if it's hemp-derived, it's no good.
Correct.
Which makes no sense at all.
That is correct. And you know what's even more messed up, Joe, is the fact that if you were deriving CBD from cannabis, whether it was an isolate or not, as long as it's not hemp, you could still legally sell it.
Right. So
that's messed up.
I personally, being from Mass, I predict this is not going to last long. There's been quite a bit of lobbying efforts. Yeah. Some very fine people are working on this right now. I think whoever thought this up just didn't know what they were doing at the time. And now, of course, whenever you do something, human reaction is, I'm going to, stick to that.
Yeah, stand my ground.
Stand my ground. There you go.
Well, look, I mean, it took Maine, 2 weeks? Maine and New York tried to do the same thing once, all the amendments came out for the Farm Bill, right?
Right.
Once the FDA said no non-food, right?
Right.
And it was 2 weeks, right?
New York.
Before they realized that it's just not going to happen.
Sense. Right, yeah.
Are they really going to go to every little gas station and drugstore and pull all these little?
There's nothing being pulled. They don't have a force to do that, even if they wanted to.
So how do they enforce it? Right?
You have to think of the logistics of these things. It's just crazy sometimes.
I mean, when concentrates are illegal in Arizona, they didn't enforce it.
Yeah.
So
no, but if you got caught with it, you're in trouble.
Well, I mean, you can go to federal prison. That's beside the fact, though.
I don't know many prosecutors in my state of Massachusetts that will really push those kind of charges. I mean, I just don't.
Yeah, I
mean, that's one lucky thing. We do have some politicians who have been dragging their feet, but in general, they are moving forward.
Right. Well, at least your state's going forward, right?
Yeah, and same thing with the police force. Generally. Is pretty,
accepting of it.
Accepting of it. It's been quite a while that it's been decriminalized, so it's not a major issue.
No, I mean, we go to events all the time, and we end up smoking outside in the streets. The cops wave, and really the only thing we get is from, the property owners being...
Snoopedelic was smoking on stage. There were cops all surrounding him. That was in Connecticut.
What's up, Joe Souza?
I did one a couple weeks ago that the cops actually showed up and took a walk around, and then one cop actually jumped the fence of a private property, came through the backyard, and it was one of these sessions where people were displaying stuff, and I was selling some art, and kind of gave everyone a panic as he walked around the yard, and then he left, and then he came back with 2 more cops. This was in Fall River in Mass.
Yep.
And then they walked around the perimeter again with the 2 cops, and then just kind of left and never came back again. And the radio went back on, and everything went back to how it was.
Right.
I don't know if it was a noise complaint or what. They were just checking in, but I mean, they seem to be pretty cooperative as long as you're not, being a bunch of jerks back there.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
I don't think this industry is full of those jerks, really. You know what I mean?
Hardly.
The sessions are meant for the community, the family. It's a different type of event, right? But the thing that concerns me now, and maybe we'll touch base on this before we get to the our leaf law with Timothy Fair, is. Now, so we have Turptown going on this weekend, right? So it's a big shot to Turptown. Looks like a great event. It's going on to Spencer Fairgrounds.
Which has had problems in the past.
That's what I was going to bring up. So, I mean, it's a well-known fact that other companies, they were putting together some really great events and really properly done events. You know what I mean? Big shout out to Reliable Bud for those events. They had issues in the town. The town fought, and eventually they stopped doing events there. So now we have Turptown coming in, right? Big concern for us was it's in Spencer, Mass. again at the fairgrounds. Right. But now they released the other day that they're the first event in Mass to get a new permit, right? So now they're asking people to get permits, and they're really going after this permit thing hard. So
what permit thing? You mean for the town of Spencer?
For open consumption permits.
Not the CC. Well, I know
it goes by town, and it also goes by state. There's a couple different regulatory measures that are being taken place in Mass. Right. We've done a bunch of just investigation on this because we're curious how these different events are going to go down. But these are not our words. This was Turptown. We made a post, and they're like, we have a permit for consumption, and we are one of the first festivals to have a permit like this. This is how it's going to be from this point on in Massachusetts. We look forward to the future, basically. So as far as they're concerned, they're set, and ready to go.
Well, that would be easy to confirm because our CCC has a great website.
I reached out to them to talk to them about this and what these permits are going to be and what they are. The initial readout of it was they were only going to allow them 2 events that have done prior events, and they're going to issue about 4 or 5 for the summer. So
you have to have thrown an event in Massachusetts consecutively, I think, no less than 3 years. Or, these are all events that Massachusetts knows are going to happen, like the Boston Freedom Rally. That will definitely get a permit because of its history and its lineage in Massachusetts, if you will.
Right, but they've had issues, too.
Well, yeah, last year there were big issues.
That's the Boston Police Department, and we were talking about them. Another large police department.
Their issues happened last year, and now they basically had to make the event a one-day event.
Right.
So the Boston Freedom Rally this year is only going to be a one-day event only.
Correct.
The knee cans seem to be doing okay. The Harvest Cup is going to be going off. We can't wait for that event. So there's a lot of other events going on. I mean, there's pop-up sessions all the time. I've seen even they're having issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know what to tell you guys, really.
Well, it's so up in the air about the social consumption in Mass right now because, again, the month of August there's supposed to be a listening tour of the CCC to get the impact, to get our ideas and what we think about it. And so I was under the impression none of that was going forward. Now there may be some special permitting going on. Well, that's interest to me. I'm going to be calling them soon about that. Right. Because I want to know how those were chosen, for one thing, and how do you get in line for the next one.
Right. I mean, Mass has been weird all over the place about its licensing anyways, right?
Well, it's been transparent up until this moment, maybe.
Right.
You know exactly how this is going to go down. They're going to issue these permits and licenses in Massachusetts just like they would issue a liquor license, basically. I mean, when it really comes down to it, in my understanding from all the information I've seen and the people I've talked to from Massachusetts, basically all they want is the money. That's all they care about. Oh, you're going to do this cannabis event at X, place, and it's going to be 4 hours long, this and that. Well, it costs $500 for the permit.
It's just going to be an extra.
That's all they really care about. And they're just trying to get a basis of a pricing.
Well, as long as they set a standard and you know that you have to do, and then they're going to leave you alone, sure,
Correct.
why not? I'll pay a little extra, right? If it's going to allow the safety and protection of all the people that are either coming to enjoy the event or participating and being a part of the event.
That's right.
Yeah, as a vendor, I would definitely lean towards events that do that, because when the cops do show up, as a vendor, or something happens, it kills the whole show. And I've wasted
Another segue.
Right. Exactly. I mean, look at the vendors. I think a part of this was an additional vendor license to be able to sell and vend in the cannabis industry. Now, Joe, you must have a vendor license, correct?
I don't need a specific license to sell cannabis or anything, because I don't. I just sell the jars and things like that. But I do have to have my tax licenses and numbers for every state that I go to.
Right. So, I mean, I think they would just add something else to that, because, I mean, that was part of this conversation they had with the permits,
I did have to secure a $100 permit to sell my friend's glass that I was selling when we saw each other in Nican. Remember, I was selling some glass my friend did, and I did have to pay Vermont $100 to get it was a tobacco license, actually.
Right. So all I can see, these guys are probably going to just basically put in either a cannabis license or a license to either sell what I would imagine would be a THC or a CBD product. I'm sure they'd probably break it down and separate it. Which might not be a bad idea. I mean, and again, I don't think that people within the industry would not support this, as long as you again, we're being transparent, and here's what it is and here's what you get, and then you're protected in this way. And if you're not protected in this weird gray area, well, here's another permit, or here's another thing you have to do, like they would in any other business, right?
Right.
I mean, but again, until we see banking kind of pick up and the government let loose on the reins on there, it's going to be very hard for any business to work well until we have banking and we have insurance, right? Because we haven't barely even talked about the medical field today, which is unusual for us, right? That's a whole nother conversation we're going to have. But guys, we're going to be taking a break here real soon. And we're going to come back and we're going to focus on CannaMountain.
All right, sounds great.
We're getting a lot of messages wondering about CannaMountain, and people are really curious about what's going on, because you guys are kind of quiet right now. You know what I mean? You're kind of over there in the western part of Mass.
Well, actually, we are at the gateway to the Pioneer Valley, which is Holland, Mass.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, where is that?
All right.
Oh, Holland, Mass.
Yep.
Holland, Mass.
Holland, yes.
Mass. So
great name, right?
Well, let's talk insurance for a minute. Now we're talking about banking, right? And insurance. That's the next big thing.
Insurance.
Now, Joe, you also...
I'm an insurance agent. I've been an insurance agent for 20 years here in Massachusetts. A couple years ago, I figured I'd start sliding into and learning more about cannabis-type insurance, figuring there's going to be a market for that, which there is. It's been slow, but it's starting to pick up. But do you think it's just because people don't understand it's available? Well, in Mass, it's because the businesses have been slow. They're rolling out slow, even. But that's going to pick up as more small co-ops, micro businesses, and then with the social consumption. You were talking about vendors before. Well, you need vendor licenses. Some places you need, vendor insurance. Because the vendors, the venues usually require liability insurance. So
bigger venues you can get that liability insurance for your area.
Yep.
Exactly, yeah. But, of course, I recommend as an agent is buying an overall policy. I mean, if you're in the business, you might as well get a year-long policy. And they can cover special events like that, too.
Okay, cool. So for you, so what types of insurances are available to cannabis businesses? I mean, can you insure your crops?
Well, you can't insure the cannabis crops yet.
Yeah.
Because crop insurance is through a federal program. Hemp is supposed to be rolled out, though, very soon, as I read. The feds are trying to schedule it in, because there's obviously crop insurance for many other crops available through the federal government. And because of the Farm Bill, now hemp will be available. It just hasn't been, they have to schedule premiums and so forth. So that may be available this coming spring, if with a little luck.
Right.
But then there's workers' comp insurance. You need commercial vehicles. Building insurance. Yeah. I mean, product liability.
Right.
That's the one that's the toughest, because that one right now is probably the most expensive, because there's not many carriers. There's a couple like Lloyd's of London. There's a few others. But as the business matures, and it's maturing so fast, and there's a record of claims, that's going to be more available. Many other companies will start writing it.
Now, these businesses that you write for, are they all American companies, or are they overseas?
No, some of them are. There are some companies in Massachusetts that have always specialized in farmers, like Farmers Insurance, National Grange Mutual. Now, I already know those companies. They are already, I'm sure, dabbling in them if they are already writing those, especially for hemp operations, because, as you know, hemp is now totally legal. So those kind of operations should easily find underwriting.
Right. Yeah. So if you guys do have a business out there, there is insurance available.
So that's why I started this small little agency called Brome Insurance. We're going to be rolling out very soon, and we're just focusing right now on Massachusetts insurance for cannabis companies. And now we also handle, the ancillary businesses too, but cannabis is our focus right now.
All right. Well, guys, it is the top of the hour. It's 1 o'clock. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to come back and introduce you guys to Joe Passy. CannaMountain.
All right.
So let's get talking about that. Again, guys, if you want to give us a call, the phone is 802-454-7762. And again, we are on the community radio campaign for $40,000. We are trying to collect for WGDR. Any sort of donations, gifts, or underwriting available. Just give us a call here at the studio, 802-454-7762, or find us online, www.wgdr.org. And here is Rick Renton.
Times you catch that funky breeze in the weeds.
It's stimulating, mind expanding, safer to use than alcohol. It's the in thing, the hula hoop of the jet generation, and as much a part of growing up as smoking corn silk behind the back fence. Such are the myths concerning marijuana. Myths that lull thousands of young people into experimenting with the noxious weed. The facts are otherwise. Marijuana is an intoxicating, mind-muddling drug. Its use can lead to abnormal behavior, to psychological dependence, and to abuse of other drugs. The human brain, after all, is made for thinking, not fumigating. It's hardly a tinker toy for experimenting with drugs. This has been the public service message of the American Medical Association and your local station.
All right, there we go. Little PSA. So, I mean, it's interesting, the reefer madness from back in the day, you know what I mean? Where that obviously was, a 70s ad talking about the reefer madness. So now we have Joe Passy. Joe, thank you for coming in the studio. You're all the way up here from
Loved it.
Mass,
It was a great drive up to Vermont here. It was just great.
So not only are you Brome Insurance, we just discussed that a little bit real quick, so everybody knows that there's insurance available out there for anybody who's in the cannabis business.
Right.
All you got to do is reach out to Joe and figure out if he has anything that can suit your needs yet.
Absolutely.
But now, so we've been hearing a lot about this CannaMountain thing.
Yeah, this is a project some associates of I are working on in Holland, and we're basically working on a kind of a cannabis-friendly community. We're really focusing on research. It's a locally owned company, and it's based on the 100 acres of Blodgett Farms, which is historically, he was the pioneer of the settler of that town, Holland, Mass, back in the, 1700s. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of historical significance to this farm. I mean, it's been a farm for 300 years, so we're really going to bring it back, hopefully.
Now, is it a farm that's currently active right now?
They've been doing logging for the last few years, because, there's obviously wood on it. No, it's the crest, we call it a mountain because it's actually, I believe the crest's at about 950 feet above sea level, which is, it's more like a hill, I guess. But anyway, the mission is research, and we really, like I said earlier, it's all about the planet. And the founders, all us founders, have been really focused on that. We think Massachusetts is really going to be key to this. It's really one of the first regulatory states that's legal. I'm not counting the West Coast because of the vast black market. Here we have a black market, obviously, but it's gonna get tame in a few years, I think.
Well, level out. I mean, right now we're seeing out west is just getting. I mean, every day it seems like 1,000 illegal businesses, I guess we could say, are getting busted. Right. They've gotten, I don't know how many tens of thousands of pounds of cannabis in the last 2 weeks. We were just reporting today about this thing that they had going for about a week now, where it was like 14,000 pounds. Ridiculous amounts of plants. So, we talk about the black market, and right now it's interesting to see the markets fluctuate and change. And me and Brendan talked about how Oregon shut down its market, so they could try to regulate. And then now, we're seeing all this black market enforcement now, right? Because of course, with regulations and rules comes enforcement.
But these are in states where it is now regulatorily legal.
Yes.
And these folks chose not to go that route.
Right. So
Obviously.
At that point,
okay. So my father used to say, you have to choose your path.
Right. Well, I mean, we tell people a lot. I mean, especially with these businesses that are like, hey, we're going to start a business. It's legal now. It's going to be, it's legal now. It's going to be legal. We're on that cusp. We're here. We're there. Just make sure you're lined up to go legal. I mean, because they are watching you. We talk about this every day. Facebook, Instagram. They sit there and watch you guys try to sell your pounds and try to sell your products as a legitimately admitting that nothing for sale. We are not a company, and you're processing these exchanges of whatever you want to call it.
Now, the reason we're reaching out from CannaMountain is because we want to help these people get into the regulated market, and we're going to have space for rent. And as you know, some of the cities and towns are not pro.
Right.
So if you live in a town, you own land in that town, your land is worthless.
Right.
So you'll have to find somebody else. There's not much rental space for that kind of stuff.
So at CannaMountain, right, you guys are going to focus on research, right?
Research, living space, workspace.
It's a cooperative in essence.
It's going to be a hopefully kind of cannabis community focused around cannabis and the research. We want to have testing. I guess we're looking at maybe possible seed banks, storage facilities, for other companies that may have to. We actually have been working on a kind of just semi-partnership with a company who will be doing transportation. Need that kind of services.
That's another big service that people don't understand.
Right, because the regs are very, very specific. You need like GPS in vehicles. You need video surveillance in vehicles. I mean,
especially if you're going to do
it's a little excessive in my opinion, but those regs are already there. Now they may change over time.
Hopefully.
Again, I think it's excessive compared to how they deliver liquor.
Yeah, right. Or even money at that.
Or even money, right?
It's almost more excessive than they.
It is. But again, we have to work with the rules as they are now, and then lobby to change them if necessary.
Right. At least they're there. They're in.
Right. I mean, it's a starting point.
And we have to figure out as we go.
Right.
So as far as CannaMountain goes, though, living spaces, rentals,
greenhouses.
Yeah.
Our first kind of envisioned stage is, and we're looking at maybe 250,000 square feet of greenhouse. Now, of course, based on our tiers, we have tiers in Massachusetts. Could be anywhere size from 5,000 to 100,000. So there'd be multiple licenses in a building, maybe, depending. And of course, it's all going to be top of the line. Whatever is the latest technology, because we're really interested in that. Our COO is very into hemp. Yeah. So 20% of our basic project is going to be some sort of hemp production. We haven't figured that quite out yet.
Well, in an operation like that, I would imagine that you could probably work with a corporation that would allow you to beta test certain things and
exactly
take
lighting,
a room and here's an LED.
soil.
Right.
I mean, lighting, soil, air conditioning, CO2, all those other things that I have no idea. I'm not that technically savvy about that. But I'm interested in learning about it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, well, there's a lot to it. I mean, it's like the same thing I tell everybody every day as an ex-chef is there's 800 ways to cook a fried egg, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's just a matter is what you want as your final outcome and you know how you know.
And medical research, we're really interested in that, too, because you need clinical trials.
Oh, yeah.
You need a place to do that. Sometimes people have to stay over as you're, studying them or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? There's a lot of corporate money. We'll take that.
Right.
You know, if there's no strings attached and it's for research and you get the right researchers,
right.
It's all good, right?
Right. You'll provide the space for that, right?
Right, absolutely.
So, as you know, we hit on a couple times earlier, and I think it's something that we bring up on the show a lot of times is the research, right? Not only is it the research, but the medical acceptance of your endocannabinoid system, right? Because, still there's a lot of doctors that don't believe in it, right? There's numerous doctors that have done the research, and they're learning that we do have a CB1 and CB2 receptor.
Mm-hmm.
They have actually found a third receptor, which is something I'm even curious about because I've been reading a lot about it.
Right.
So that third receptor is going to just once people realize what's going on. To me, it's kind of funny because I'm not I kind of strayed away from the CBD bandwagon. CBD is one compound, it's one molecule within this whole big thing that we all need.
I just think
you know
there's
what I mean?
not enough research.
No.
I just think it's so under-researched.
Now, do you think it's under-researched even from back in the day, or do you think it's just something that we're...
even today, I think.
Yep.
Even overseas, I don't think there's enough. Although,
Israel.
overseas there's more. Yeah, Israel's really, I understand, is like...
The forefront
of it, yeah. And again, I think that's all going to change right here in the state, because we are really known for our research. And I already know there's interest.
Yeah, right. I mean, the medical world in Boston is one of the best, right?
Right, and BU
Boston
already
Children's
did that.
Hospital.
They did an incubator over at BU already. There's opportunity for Hampshire College. They're supposedly going under. It's a farming college. If they don't embrace cannabis and hemp, I guess they're not thinking, right?
Yeah, right. Well, we talk about that too, because I mean, obviously, our show is produced at Goddard College. If you guys didn't know, obviously we're community-based radio, and Goddard College is kind of like a liberal arts school, right? When we came onto the show, the biggest problem is the stigma, right? Because, I mean, even for us, we came onto this show where we're like the perfect platform for the show to be in. We're in the middle of Vermont. We're kind of like this great hippie school where Fish and all these great, personalities and entertainers are from. And here we are with cannabis, right? So we've had our show moved a few times. We've had a few issues with our content, right? What about if a kid tunes into In the Weeds today, right? I laugh because I go, we're education, right? We're trying to teach people against these stigmas. But now, what is the stigma now? You know what I mean? What for you in Mass? What's your biggest fight that you see for yourself?
Well, right
personally?
now well, for me personally, I have none.
Right.
I've been out a long time amongst my family and friends, so and now it's legal. There is no stigma for me.
Yeah.
And and that's another reason I went head on in the insurance business. I said, they're going to need it. I know about it. I'm comfortable with the subject and all that. So this is like made for me.
Right.
I said, okay, let's go for it.
Right. Now, aren't you also a patient?
I'm not. My wife is a
is,
patient. Right. She has chronic back pain. And she uses it. She doesn't like opioids at all. She has on zero pain meds at all. And seems to get through life pretty good, considering obviously she's constantly in pain, and some days are worse than others. But I can't even imagine if she didn't have cannabis.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine.
Was she on opioids at one point, or she?
No, she never liked it. She was one that just stood the pain.
Yeah,
and I'm kind of like, there's a lot of people like that. They try to bear it.
Yeah.
But this is so. So helpful and so easy now. It's kind of just part of our life,
Yeah. Now, does she smoke it, or does she?
She smokes it. She likes the vape. She'll have edibles now and then.
Yeah. And it manages well for her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And now my wife actually has a green thumb, but she never tried to grow. We have some friends who are actually helping us right now. Just got some clones. Is Brandon still on?
I am.
Cherry pie and gelato. Are they good?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Right? Okay, so I got
They are.
Great.
Yeah,
Gelato's
okay,
great.
so I got one of each, I think, that are just about.
Cherry pie and gelato.
Yeah, there was a great award-winning strain of gelato running
Friends of
through
mine
Mass.
are
Yeah,
into
a
the
few years ago.
genetics, you
Yeah, the
know.
Mass genetics guys were playing with there. Phenomenal strains for especially that too.
So she's making her first attempt at growing her own, you know, so.
Well, it's fun now, right? Because now you can.
Yeah.
There's no, you know, it's just like growing flowers in your window. Right?
Exactly.
Almost.
And she's like I said, she's always had a green thumb, had a garden, and she's really getting psyched about it, actually.
Nice.
And we have some really good friends who know what they're doing, who are tutoring her and tutoring us.
Nice.
Yeah.
So CannaMountain now. We'll go back to this because it's just a question that popped in my head.
Yeah.
We're talking about growing and growing indoors, outdoors. Your wife growing. Now, is CannaMountain going to be able to offer all the different growing experiences?
I think
like an outdoor greenhouse, an indoor.
I think so. Again, since I'm not technical, I don't know about it. I know there's issues with males and cross and all that, but they seem to. If I recall our last meeting, that we are going to have some outdoor hemp, and I definitely outdoor hemp, but some outdoor cannabis maybe at some point, because they have to try different varieties to see how they do in this climate, things like that.
Yeah, you're always on the hunt for the right strain,
right? So again, not being technical in that, in the conversations amongst our team, I hear that we want to try some different things outdoors, and
Well, our growing climate's vastly
Brandon,
different.
if you have any hints, Brandon, let us know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Brandon will talk to you about this too. I mean, so the biggest thing, me and Brandon talk about this all the time, like the difference between East Coast, West Coast, right?
Right.
The biggest thing for me that jumps out of my head is everybody out west uses the sun. They're outside, they're growing these big 10-foot behemoths, right?
Right.
Everybody in Mass, New England, East Coast. And maybe
all
just
indoors.
because we're all New England-based legality right now, because Florida is getting they're still in the fight. Even
That's
though
all
it's
black market
medical,
still.
Right?
Yeah.
But to grow outside, right? So we have a shortened season, so a lot of people are focused on the indoors or greenhouse with light depth and everything else.
Obviously.
But obviously we're not growing 15-foot plants out here. We just can't, right? Some guys do. I mean, they take their plant count legit to plant count, and if I only get 4 plants, I'm going to make them 10-pound plants.
Right? Yeah. Well,
come on, bring me to Vermont. Give me 250, gallon outdoor plants, and I'll produce 15-foot trees for you.
Well, I've seen. Oh man, this last year though, I mean, I've been involved with a couple projects where these guys are growing, West Coast style plants, and with a couple of new tricks, which I was really impressed with. So I'm very interested to see some of the grows this year. I've gone to a couple farms already. I've been able to talk to a few friends and see what they have going on and how they're doing it.
I love taking those tours.
Well, it's great. I mean, man, I've been a chef for years, and I'm one of those guys that was like, if you ever think you know everything, you've lost. Right?
Yeah, no.
So everybody,
You've lost.
Yeah, everybody in this industry is going to bring something to the table, something a little different, whether it's because think about it, how many of us are trying different things every day, right? And think about how fast the technology is moving forward with cannabis, where we got vape carts, we get the dabs, and now the vape carts are even changing to a new design, right? And then the only thing I have with this industry is the fact that we can't do the is like the testing to me. I mean, I'm all for testing, I'm all for products, especially when it comes to the medical thing. But, if we're going to lay it in the FDA's hand and they're going to make us test our products like this, what about the kids' cereal that we eat? There's more arsenic and more chemicals in it. You know what I mean? So that's the only reason why, I'm not a big fan of this FDA control issue. But, it's a commodity, right? Like, that's how we all approach this.
Agree.
You know what I mean? No different than corn, it should be.
Yep.
Wheat.
I totally agree.
Eventually, when it is federal, there will be a cannabis commodities market. Just like
Sure will.
Absolutely. You know, that
there'll be a global
5.
cannabis.
Oh,
Right?
man, and if you're not investing, putting money into that, you're just an idiot.
Yeah,
that's going to blow up.
The global ones is a little more, you know, obviously way above all our pay grades. I mean, who knows what's going outside the United States? You know, there's so many countries. I think it's going to be a lot slower globally, I think. I don't know, but...
globally?
Yeah.
Yes. Globally, I think the growth will be way, way slower. But
slower,
just within the United States...
Oh, no. Once they trip that trigger, it's over.
It's going to go.
Yeah.
No,
and just
sure.
All right, so you said...
Just to answer your question
cherry
earlier...
pie?
Oh, yeah.
Or gelato?
Well,
both.
I have one of both.
Both?
One of each.
Okay, so cherry pie is... that's Granddaddy Purple and the Durban Poison. Comes in at like 16% THC. And patient-wise, it's really good for ADD, anxiety, like bipolar disorder, chronic pain, depression, hyperactivity. But the gelato on the other side is an indica dominant hybrid. And that one is the Sunset Sherbet and the Thin Mint Girl Scout cookies. That's the cross that makes the gelato. And that one's great for bipolar disorder, chronic pain, depression, fatigue, fibromyalgia, headaches, inflammation, and insomnia. So if she has back issues, that gelato is the one that she should really be...
right. That's the
one you want to go after.
Right.
Right, and that's why the strain knowledge is important. That's why we do the strain of the week every week. It's not for fun, so you know what strains are going to work well with whatever ailments you have. Because, you know, the worst thing that we hate is when we talk to a patient, right, that's somebody that's looking for help that says, hey, I tried this and I just sat there and drooled on myself, or I got so anxious, or I don't like it because I didn't do anything because I bought it off Amazon and it told me it had CBD in it, but it really doesn't.
You know, you also have to try a couple of times.
I mean, the one story you told me that really irks me to this day, Joe, was when you were at some place, you know, it was a pop-up or something, and there was a woman, and she was like, hey, you know, I'm looking for a sativa. And the guy's like, what's a sativa?
I mean, unfortunately,
I'm just like, really? This is an educational thing. Like, these people really need to know what it is that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, if you're...
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, that was an event we went to, right, that was literally like, hey, people, I mean, there was a major change in Mass, okay, from when legalization kind of hit Mass, right? Well, I guess we say the first dispensary opened, because like we said, it's been legal for a little while.
Right.
Where the sessions that we were working with, like the Reliable Bud sessions that, you know, I was a part of, you know, the first couple of big ones we see, it was like the younger crowd. It was the weed smokers, like almost stereotypically weed smokers.
More underground.
Right?
More
the underground guys, right?
Right. And then as it got noticed, or got out there, you got more mainstream.
Patients.
More mainstream,
Parents.
just
mainstream
people.
People just walking in with questions.
In the culture, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, what Brandon was talking about, and it was one of the ones that really, like, struck me one day, is that, you know, and I saw and I heard a bunch of conversations going on. There was this lady, and she was just literally just like, hey, I'm looking for a sativa. My son kind of sent me here. My doctor says, try these out. What do you have? And, like, you know, and this is a company that was... I forget the name of the company. I'm not going to say it anyways, but it was representing themselves as a medical cannabis company, where the lady's like, "Oh, so what do you guys have for sativa?" And then the guy's like, "Well, I don't know. Like, this one could be," and he just picks up and starts naming off the strains that he has in front of him. So I mean, not only do we need to educate our consumers, but these consumers should be testing the people selling these products to them, and if they don't know what they're talking about, just walk away. Find somebody that can, because I mean, there's just too much of I mean, within an unregulated industry, there's going to be too many people taking advantage of that. Not that we want to say that people are, because it's kind of sad to see people take advantage of people in that kind of position. But we see it all the time. You know, we read reports of fake cartridges.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it happens a lot. I can go on Amazon right now and buy 6 or 7 different packages, right? The biggest thing that irks me, like, you know, we were talking about before, was the Amazon top 10 CBD sales items right now. None of them have CBD in them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So no wonder people are confused about this unregulated product that nobody knows anything about.
Especially
you know what
on the CBD side,
right.
On that side,
And then, you know, and some of these guys are, you know, then we have these people that are like firemen or people that have respectable jobs that are taking a CBD product and then find out that there's enough THC in them to fail a test, lose their job, you know what I mean, lose their position. Yeah, and again, the stigma is real, guys. We can't hide that by any means. As we see with like teachers losing their positions because they use medical CBD, they get a card. You know what I mean? They try to do all the right things, and they're still
hopefully
being affected.
Massachusetts will push a lot of that forward, because everything you just spoke of will be dealt with at some point in Massachusetts. It may take a little while.
Well, it
like
has
for
to.
example,
Every state.
Medical marijuana, I already predicted Massachusetts will be the first state to pay for it.
To pay for patients.
Pay for it for patients.
Yeah.
Guaranteed. We will be the first state. I'm telling
Now, will that be through the state, through
that's all
tax,
state.
or
No,
will it be
that'll
through
be
insurance?
That the insurance companies will pay for it.
Yeah.
They will just say we'll pay for it. Guaranteed we'll be the first state. Mark my words.
Man, I hope so, because
I'm telling you.
if they would do that, that would be that has to set up
as an
a
insurance
domino
professional
effect,
in the
right?
state, I know that we are set up for that. That would be an easy switch to turn.
Yep.
And that wouldn't be an issue, And
then it's full speed ahead with research.
I would hope so.
I mean, we got some of the best medical doctors and
I know.
hospitals in the country.
I hope they all
here.
call me. Because we need you on the mountain very soon.
Right. I think the medical industry is ready for this, right?
Oh yeah, no, they are ready. I think so. Because don't forget, the ones who are going to be working on it, they're still in college today.
Yep.
Right. True.
Right? They are on the
Exactly.
campuses right now.
Yeah. And they're the ones being hopefully taught the proper way. You know what I mean?
They don't have a lot of the stigmas that we had. They just don't.
I mean, education to the masses is probably one of the most important things that we can do for people.
Right.
Just the simplest people getting up there and doing maybe like some really big, like 2,000, 3,000, 5,000 speaking, engagements on just like the 101s of cannabis. Hey, this is cannabis. Ever heard of it? Check it out.
Right.
Let me tell you what it does, And obviously the people that are going to want to progress will go from there and keep moving on, and the ones that won't will drop off.
Right. And then it's such a great industry that you can actually kind of pick and choose which path you want to go, whether you want to learn how to grow it or process it.
Does Maine have cannabis public service yet? We have it in Mass now,
They might in their new amendment, because they just came out with their new amendment.
And
they're going to be...
I'm not a fan of the cartoons.
No?
It boggles my mind that they actually have cartoons giving us these new regulations.
Yeah.
It's like a cute little cartoon. It's like,
But
really?
we can't put a kid-friendly CBD package out there, right?
I mean, really? I think they really have to work on that.
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be a big media battle over that one.
But there's time to work on that. Absolutely.
No, there is. That was our big discussion in Vermont. Do you pass regulations with the hopes that you can fix it later, or do you...
Always can be fixed later.
Right. It's a little
always
easier
can be
then, right?
fixed, yeah. That's why I like Obamacare. Actually, it's the ACA. But see, I'm an insurance agent. I know a lot about it, and that's a whole nother show.
Whole nother show. So we're coming up to about 1:30 here. A lot of information going on right now. Again, CannaMountain. This is pretty much a development project right now, right?
Right. 85% of it has nothing to do with cannabis, really, because there's living space, there's workspace. Of course, it's going to be cannabis friendly, which is kind of a new thing, right? I mean, and there's not much of that, especially for office space and living space,
especially in masks. Really,
not.
Right?
We have one cannabis friendly venue really right now.
Summit View,
right in Worcester.
Right.
Great place to go.
Again, that's going to change as they.
Yeah, they roll out these new rec licenses and social consumption, right? So,
and now, hang on, Joe. I want to ask you.
Sure.
I want to make sure that I'm clear on this. So, in Mass, right, with CannaMountain, it's private property,
Absolutely,
right?
Yep.
So pretty much as long as you're within the guidelines of what the state allows, right, then you're able to do pretty much anything that you really want out there as far as it comes to consumption,
Right, and we are working very closely with our town of Holland, because our founders are very invested in their community. So, but that's good. they're going to make out money too. They're going to make money too.
Oh, no.
You know, I mean,
it is very exciting. I checked you guys out on the website, and I really like some of the, like you have pictures up where it shows houses that are literally look like they're constructed from hempcrete, and like how all these different things would tie in, and the mission statement and the educational purposes, and I definitely think you guys are onto something. It looks extremely exciting.
We're getting really, really great feedback. Really, really great. Not much negative. And again, we're listening for it. Right. I really want to hear the negative, and that way we can address it, right?
Well, that's the best way to build it, right?
Right.
See what everybody's input
I'm waiting.
is. And
dial that phone if you got a negative.
Yeah, right. So if you guys haven't announced it yet, 802-454-7762. If you guys want to give the show a call, ask us any questions you may have, whether it's health-related, law-related, just cannabis-related. If you want to find out more from any of these guys, we do have... So, Joe, tell everybody again where they can find more information.
Sure. www.CannaMountainInc.com. We're going to have some, big announcements hopefully in the next few months as we, finalize and tie some stuff up. But otherwise, it's the train's on the tracks and going forward.
Right.
And so, with this, you're going to be looking for help too. So.
Well, we're certainly looking for diversity too. As you know, in Mass, there's a lot about the economic empowerment. We want them to come and talk to us. We're going to be just landlords to some of these people, which is fine. That's what we're really. It's kind of like an incubator almost. And I'm not really calling it that, but that's kind of what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I mean, every community needs its own entertainment department, too, as well. Maybe its own radio show or its own TV channel. Wink, wink, nod, nod.
Yeah. Well, right. Look at don't worry. There will be studio space on the mountain.
There we go, right?
Right? I mean, we're 950 feet up. You can put your own antenna.
Yeah, right.
How's that?
There
we go. You have your own network, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, because we also want to use solar, wind, thermal energy. Apparently, we're on a mountain, which is like rock. I guess you can
get some
things
thermal
like
energy.
that.
Yeah.
Thermal energy and all that.
It's amazing. You could probably really build it like yourself. I mean, I could be wrong with this, but I mean, most wine cellars you can create with rock that will keep a consistent humidity and temperature all the time.
Yeah, I guess you need that for cannabis storage.
I mean, I got to be honest with you. If you guys make this whole cannabis utopia out on the East Coast, Hot Rock might move out there and permanently take stake in that place.
Well, there you go. Well, we're shortly having a family and friends round, as you know. Wink, wink. And as you know, in any investment, the earlier you get in, the better, I suppose, right?
That's always how it works, right? All right, guys, we are at 1:30. We have about a half hour left to go. We were trying to touch base with Timothy Fair here. Hopefully we'll get him on. He usually does his little spiel right about now with some leaf law. I haven't been able to reach out to him. I know he had to run in there and he might get hung up, which will be unfortunate. But anyways, we're still here. We're going to have Jessalyn Dolan from the Vermont Cannabis Nurse Association with our health and wellness tip right at the end of the hour, top of the hour here. And again, guys, if you want to give us a call, 802-454-7762. You can call us right here in the studio. Ask us any sort of questions in the cannabis that you have, in no matter what state you're in. Again, we want to welcome everybody to our new Friday slot from 12 to 2 p.m. You can find the show's archive at www.wgdr.org. There is the live feed, and there's also 2 weeks of archives there. And then from then, you can find us on our YouTube channel where we post all of our live shows and our videos from the show. So if you guys ever want to reach out, you have a question about law or anything like that, just PM us. And again, with our guest here, Joe Passy from CannaMountain, and also Joe Souza from I Think I've Created a Monster. Joe, you still there?
I'm still hanging out, listening to you guys.
Right? You learning anything yet? I mean, it's crazy conversations that we have regarding this industry, right? So now that we're at the top of the hour, we got about 20 minutes left, guys. I just want to talk more about Mass right now, the events, are we worried, Joe? You know what I mean?
No, I'm not worried. Like I said, I think Mass is going to figure itself out. It's not as fast as any of us want it to be, that's for sure. And there's been snags.
Yep.
I mean, the big snag now is apparently the CCC wants to go back to the legislature and let the towns opt out of social consumption. And they're not going to allow deliveries in towns where they've already banned things. I mean, there's a couple of odd little rules and regs that they're talking about.
So if you're
you find those odd? You find those odd?
Yeah, I do. So if you're a patient and you live in a town that is not allowing cannabis,
I think actually what they're saying is if it's only for recreational, if they ban recreational, you can't bring recreational in. But you can medical, I think. But don't quote me.
Good luck enforcing that one.
I mean, some of this stuff is unenforceable.
Well, now we're seeing people go after and are chasing the government. They're suing them now. There is one of the companies that signed up for the research licenses 3 years ago. They're suing them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not
production through the ACLU has gone up over, I think, 50-some%?
Yeah, right?
Oh, that's a national issue. That's a national.
It's going to get
I
raw.
know. Okay, let's just stay here in Massachusetts.
Yeah, right. Stay here.
Well, we have in New England.
Well, we have Joe too, right? So I mean, we're talking about Mass a lot, but what's up with Rhode Island, man? I mean, again, we talked about Rhode Island being kind of like a Vermont, where they were one of the forefront guys on the medical side, and it seems like recreation is just taking forever, right? I mean, what's the big holdup in Rhode Island, Joe?
I really have no idea what's the drag on the recreational thing. The medical thing's been in place for so long, and at first it was really, pretty affordable. I think I paid maybe $200, maybe less. I think maybe $100 for 2 years to get my license, and there was no tagging system or anything like that. We were allowed, I think, a dozen mature plants and a dozen immature plants, and at that time they just defined that as with flowers or without flowers.
There's probably no lobby for it. Everybody's happy in Rhode Island. They have been for 12 years.
Yeah,
well, they have
we tried. They definitely tried to get it through again, and it's probably going to pass this next year coming up.
Right.
But they attacked the medical program pretty hard, trying to tag every plant for $300. It would be $300 cost each year to tag each plant. But these
on the medical side,
that are just being
just being
self-sufficient and creating their own, medicine to be a patient. On top of the $200 a year licensing fee that they raised it to, each patient would have to pay $300 to tag each plant. And of course there's some uproar for that.
And Massachusetts on the other side we've just eliminated the fee. It's only $50 here anyway, but I think
this is the medical fee.
The medical side, yeah. So I think they're eliminating that. It wasn't big. It was $50, I think.
Yeah, no, Vermont's 100.
Right. But then they still haven't figured out the doctor situation, They still got these special doctors and the regular doctors can't do it.
They're coming hard on this end to get rid of those doctors that are just writing scripts. They're personally attacking the pharmacist, going after him pretty hard to get him out of there.
Good luck with that, too.
Did I see it?
Yeah, I know.
Did I see it right that Dr. Uma is now licensed to prescribe for Rhode Island? Was that what I saw yesterday?
Wow.
I want to say
I thought it was nationwide. I didn't think it was any in particular place. I mean, as far as I know, and I could be wrong here, but she's literally the first licensed cannabis doctor in the U.S.
Oh, you mean that the MAA or Mass whatever their association that they allow that? Is that what it is?
Yeah, well, Dr. Uma is all part of Uplifting Health and Wellness. She's been on the show a few times. She's a great friend of ours.
Right.
We can't support her enough in her endeavors and in the fight that she does because she's there, man. She's fighting everything she can. I'm trying to find the post real quick while we.
I mean, she's always out doing mass amounts. She talks to ridiculous amounts of people, and she's all over the world. I mean, this woman is literally on a mission.
Okay, everybody out there who knows how to clone, we need to clone her.
No, we really do. I mean, there's some awesome medical doctors out there. She's the one that's to go.
No, there are.
She's down in Georgia right now doing another big event down in Georgia. She's got back from Thailand.
A lot of them are underground too. The doctors.
Yeah. Well, it's
because their association. Right.
We have Jessalyn Dolan on our show who will be getting a health and wellness tip from later. And when we had her on the show, it was very interesting, you know what I mean? Because like 5 years ago, the stigma was really bad.
Right.
I mean, obviously, on we'll say the East Coast, just because the West Coast started and we kind of ignored it, right?
Right.
Then it hit the East Coast, and now, like you said, it's a train where you just you can't stop it.
Yeah.
But what's happening now is the stuff that happened 10 years ago out west.
Washington has to take notice because it's in the East Coast. Washington didn't take notice really till right now, or they're starting to take notice.
Right. Well, in D.C., I mean, it's going to get surrounded real soon. I mean, and they even have legal medical cannabis down there. You know what I mean? So. But it's strict because everything's so federal down there that you...
Well, yeah, they're in charge of D.C., the Fed. So I know there's a dichotomy there of some sort where they don't allow... Even though the people in D.C. passed it, the Feds won't let them fund it, I think, or something like that.
Right, yeah.
It's crazy. How it goes. Because, it has to go through Congress to fund the city of D.C.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's down there. It's a mess. But anyways, we do have a guy that we're going to get on here soon to talk about what's going on in D.C., which I can't wait to talk to him because you're right.
I love legal minds.
Me too.
Right? What's going on in D.C.?
It's interesting minds.
It's kind of like, I want to ask Joe this real quick, Joe Souza. Like, how many dispensaries are there in Rhode Island right now that are legal and open?
As far as medical dispensaries, I believe there's 3 off the top of my head.
That's what I thought.
This year they had just passed some more to open some more coming in now. I believe 3 more.
Yeah, I want to say I thought it was 3 and moving to 5 or 6, something like that. Does that service the state? I mean, I know the state's not very big, but
Must.
It seems to. I know there's a couple of private lounges, medical lounges like the Summit Lounge and Tetrahydra Club.
Is that
pretty much only?
Is Rhode Island one of those states that gets a lot more population during the summer because of tourism?
Without a doubt.
I would assume so, but I wonder what the difference is. It'd be interesting to know.
Right?
We have a lot of towns that just pretty much shut down after the summer.
Yeah, like, for example, Cape Cod, they have, maybe 2,000-3,000 year round. But then it's 30,000 during the summer.
Right.
I mean, that's a big difference.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing to do there either, so... this year will be interesting because they're doing the bridge construction there, from what I understand. So good luck going to the Cape the next couple of years.
Actually, the Cape, out on the end of the Cape is where all the cannabis action is, or a lot of it.
Yep.
Out in P-Town, which is interesting, right? And towards the front part of the Cape, except for Fall River area,
right.
they're really...
They're like
dragging.
What, are they doing construction on a bridge? Do they make the whole thing like Dead Man's Highway to get into Cape Cod? Like, what did they do?
It's pretty much the only option to get there.
Yeah, it was the Route 9 bridge, right?
There's 2 bridges. Yeah.
There's 2 bridges in, and they're probably going to
they're repairing one.
Even with the 2 bridges, it's a pain in the ass to get in there in the summer.
Yeah, it's like 3-4 hours to get into Cape Cod. It's crazy.
And don't forget, this is one of the first summers where we're going to get a lot of extra cannabis tourism.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
In the next few years, because we are the only place.
Right.
So people who always wanted to go to New England and Massachusetts and Cape Cod,
definitely do.
They're going to go now.
Right. They're like Mass, Maine. I mean, especially now with Mass, it's like Maine, right? Where you can walk in with your medical card from any other state and be able to buy.
I don't know.
Participatory now?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know that. I
don't know that.
Mass is
participatory.
I don't know that, and I'm thinking not actually.
I know Maine is, but they're kind of rolling that back.
I'm thinking not. But then again, we have recreational. You don't even have to have a card.
Yeah, true, right?
Yeah, it's You're just going to be an
21.
adult. That's all.
21 and older. Yeah. So that's kind of a moot point now.
Rhode Island is reciprocatory.
We'll take the tax money.
Rhode Island is.
Rhode Island is one of the first states to be reciprocatory. Rhode Island and Montana.
There you go. I had a feeling Mass was not.
I can't go anywhere else with my Rhode Island card, but anyone with any other, California, Vermont, anything can get the same protections.
Yeah,
Rhode Island
I was recently in California.
As a Rhode Islander.
I was recently in California, and they said that, my wife's medical card was no good.
Well, the problem is like, a lot of people understand it, but most of these guys grow for account, right? So your card gives them access to another allotment of whatever you're allowed to grow within your state,
Yeah, and we had a good 5 years with this program where there was no place to get it except caregivers and just accepted illegal sales. Like, it was actually written in the law that if you were buying it if you were buying it off of somebody who wasn't licensed, because they were selling it to you, they were covered.
I think I remember that. I think I remember that
when early in the system, very early, which created tons of loopholes.
Right. I remember reading about that. I was going to say, how do they even police that?
They didn't. They didn't. Obviously, area. And like I said, we were just told to pretty much treat it like it was still illegal. And I went to, we had RIPAC, was the Rhode Island Patients Advocacy Coalition, which I started attending meetings to after I got my first license.
Right.
And they said, just treat it like it's still illegal. It's still early. Obviously, don't go around bragging to people that you have a garden, which you wouldn't want to do anyway, but just, telling people to just still treat it as it's illegal.
See, this was, no matter what state this has become legal, this is always figured to be the hardest part, to get the illegal actually into the legal. You know what I mean? It was always going to be the most difficult transition. In theory,
around here either. The police did not want to hear it.
They don't care. They don't care.
No, Rhode Island offered the Patients Advocacy Coalition. We offered to call up the police because we had so many problems with police not understanding the law and seizing lights and seizing plants, and then the patients having to foot the bill to fight them in court.
Right.
And, of course, you're not going to get your plant back alive. They're not going to keep it alive for you.
Right.
So, I know tons of people that had lost their whole light setup and stuff like that. And actually, we had one case where the patient had died, so the cops took the guy's lights. And his brother's like, you can't just take my brother's stuff. You just took my brother's lights now because he's not a patient. These are automatically illegal. So we had all sorts of cases like that at first with all this gray area going on, but the cops that we tried to contact, half of them didn't want to hear it. They insisted that they knew the laws, and I personally had a huge issue in Providence myself one night with them not knowing anything about it, and me pretty much having to educate them on the law.
Well, we've heard this story a lot. You know what I mean? And
see, that's the problem with the patchwork of 50 states.
Well, that's
it's always going to be a little bit of an issue. You know what I mean? Because nothing's quite reciprocal,
right? And obviously, the law enforcement of this, there's so many great.
Well, there's
so many gray areas. These guys have a tough job right now, right?
No, the mass cops are doing it right. The mass cops generally are doing it. They're generally ignoring it.
They're doing great.
Yeah, they are.
We go to mass, you smoke a blunt on the sidewalk, they wave to you. You know what I mean?
It's been 2, 3, 4 years before I even heard about a big bust of any kind. There's 1 or 2, maybe 50 pounds here, caught in the car in the trunk.
Yeah,
I could see that.
Illegal.
Yeah, plainly.
Yeah, or the cops have to have a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, and the guys or girls that dumb,
right?
The old saying. Yeah. It's pretty dumb.
They're still taking down, again, we talked about this in the news. We talked about it 4 or 5 times today. They are still going after illegal grows. Just because it's recreational legally or it's medicinal legal in your state doesn't mean that you can throw 50 pot plants up.
Of course.
There's still regulations, right?
That's right.
But there's been people doing it for so long, even at this point, they don't want to come out of the shadows or trust the government or trust anything. They're just doing what they do, right?
Well, maybe they should retire with the money under their mattress.
Yeah, right. Well, it's just
let the younger generation in.
Yeah, but can you
and they'll do it legal. That's all they know. Right?
But now, do you want somebody that's been growing for 20 years and who's had their life on the line, growing the best cannabis, or do you want the guy straight from college?
No. You know what?
There's
room for both.
Exactly.
There's room. They can work together. One can be a mentor. One can be a teacher. A student.
Now, what about? Okay, so now we've discussed a lot, guys. I appreciate your time today again. My next thing is hiring people that have felonies or a weed charge on their rap, whether it's a misdemeanor or a possession charge or things like that. A lot of these states they're not allowing it still.
Wait, let's take it a step further. How about dispensaries and or cannabis business owners on the East Coast who are going to have fully licensed chemists with master's degrees, and their growers are going to have a master's degree in botany, and you know what I mean? Come on. Wow.
Well, I went to a dispensary, right, in Vermont. Nice. Rooms all separated. It was really well done. Deliveries, the whole 9, right? We have other dispensaries, not quite the same. You know what I mean? what was I going to say? I just lost my train of thought there. I lost my train of thought. Anyways, testing is our big thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, we
Research?
talk about this all the time.
In mass, I'm more interested in the testing of all the edibles and that kind of thing. And it's just me personally. It's just me personally. It's a plant. I mean,
Right,
if you're doing it organically anyway,
right, but
what's there to test?
Well, should it fall under the same guidelines as like a tomato, or does it have to be so over-regulated?
Well, in mass right now, it's more than that, obviously.
Right.
I think if you're making a claim to a milligram dosage, then you should have to test it just like any other drug that's out there.
Exactly.
If you're saying this is 300 milligrams, then I would like each batch to be tested, not like, I'm going to test it every 6 months.
Yeah, no.
And then, who knows what you're actually getting
because
in a 6 month test.
That's a simple test, too, that particular test, right.
Well, it depends, too, because testing's expensive. So now, here's where I talk about the small guys now, right? Because, we got a lot of these small companies that make small batches of things that they want to go get tested. Now, your terpene profile or your CBD levels and THC levels, those aren't very expensive to get, right? But it's the stuff that's important, like your metals, your pesticides, your contaminants, like that jumps up a test like a $500 test, right? So if you're making, Well,
this is why I say, I personally, I think it should be, during the license process, if they're inspected and they're doing organically, certified that way. It doesn't have to be tested every batch. I'm talking about just the flower. I'm just talking about the flower, though.
Unless you're going to use it for a medicine or a product or something where you're going to make a claim to.
Right. Okay, that's a different, right.
Because the worst thing you can ever have, and it's happened to me before, where someone's like, here, this is a 10 milligram little candy, right? And it was like 200. I ate the thing and I was like, whoa.
Right, I had a brownie once that said, it's only 100 milligrams, a brownie. 2 days later.
I mean, I think that the most successful key to any cannabis market, no matter how big or small it is education and independent, third-party, non-biased testing. Right. And if you have that, it literally regulates and sets a standard for all flower, all wax, concentrates, distillates, edibles, everything. I mean, one of the only markets in the U.S. that I've seen, being Oregon, was one of the only places that almost completely demolished the gray, green, black cannabis market because it was so cheap. Even the street dealers couldn't even compete. Right. They couldn't get anywhere near it. It's like, oh, man, I'm selling them for $20 a gram. Well, Nectar Dispensary over here is selling the same gram for $5. So, yeah, sorry, Phil. And it's a quality product in a package, and it's labeled, and it tells you exactly what it is. It tells you exactly what it was tested for. I mean, that's safety right there. You're looking at real results, and that's what people find security in. That's really what it comes down to. I think it's one of the most important things. I do agree that, maybe the testing facility should vary their prices based on how big the grower is. Okay, so if you only have 1,000 square foot grow, they should give you a little bit more of a break than obviously the guy who's got the 10,000 square foot grow or the 50,000 square foot grow.
Right. I mean, but then now we got the education is a 50,000 square foot grow requires a certain amount of people education and a cost to it, right? Sure. I mean, we've talked about this many times where I've worked on 100,000 square foot grow projects where there's 2.7 million watts of light. They're running 86,000 gallons of water a day. It has to be controlled. You have to have a mass team. Everything's got to be computer operated, the pH levels, everything. I mean, you're constantly monitoring everything, and these businesses are insured. Right. I mean, I've seen people have to trash close to $500,000 in cannabis crop because the third party test came back and it wasn't going to pass OLCC standards.
that's a hard pill to swallow.
Are they fair standards? That would be my question.
They are completely fair standards.
Okay, well then it's on them, right?
Yeah. I mean,
it's on them.
To be fair on this point, if you are a master grower and you're running a grow house and you produce plants that have mold, and I don't care what the cause is, whether it's overwatering, whether it's humidity, whether it's the actual facility itself, you should not be a master grower. You don't know what you're doing.
Right,
you should not have that job. You know?
I mean, I know nothing about it, but it sounds logical.
Yeah, right. Pretty much.
It comes down to the product, right?
Pretty much.
Exactly.
I mean, literally, that's what it's going to be. If you know, the cream will rise to the top, they say, right?
This is why I was so interested in CannaMountain. I says, okay, we have this 100 acres. It all starts with the ground. Okay? So we got a place I think we're going to be able to do it. So, you know, it all pops from that, right?
Right, guys. Well, I hate to cut it short. We got about 5 minutes left. We do have our outro with Jessalyn Dolan, our health and wellness tip. I just want to make sure we give her enough time for her show.
God, it's been 2 hours?
Man, it's been 2 hours already.
True, huh?
Wow.
I know.
So again, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. I got to thank our underwriting support, which is brought to us by Exile on Main Street. They're the purveyors of rare and out-of-print LPs, 12-inch vinyl, 45 CDs, and CD singles. They are located at 94 North Main Street in Barrie. Information is available at 802-479-3107 or online at exileonmainstreet.com. And guys, we're going to thank you again, Joe.
Great talking to you guys.
We have a Joe Passy from CannaMountain Incorporated. So if you guys have any questions, find him online, Facebook, and the website, right?
Absolutely.
We also have Joe Souza, who hung out with us for the whole show from I Think I've Created Monstah, who will be
learned a lot today.
Dude, it was great having you on. People can find you this weekend in Boxborough, right?
Right.
In Boxborough, actually, yep. Boxborough Regency, Boxborough, Massachusetts, all weekend with the Token Dead.
Yeah, so guys, if you guys, obviously if you are fans of our show, you know the Token Dead by now. If you guys can find time to go out to Boxborough, it's definitely worth the trip. You can get day passes, you can bring the family. It's a family-friendly event. It's going to be awesome. There's also Terp Town going on this weekend, which I believe is 21 plus. I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah, and actually you will be able to find my jars at Terp Town as well, probably with the Liquid Haze.
There you go, Joe.
Nice.
Perfect.
Nice.
So great show going on tomorrow at Terp Town. If you guys can make it out for that, obviously Boxborough, Mass is the Northeast Comic-Con. And then for us guys, we're going to be out of here. Thank you guys for joining us. Friday's feels like it's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have the archive up on our YouTube page very shortly in case you missed the show. Don't go anywhere, guys. We'll see you next week with another group of people and more cannabis conversation. Thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to leave the show with Jessalyn Dolan and our health tips.
Dolan, cannabis nurse researcher, educator, and consultant, an organic cannabis and hemp farmer. I founded the Vermont Cannabis Nurses Association and am bringing you a weekly dose of whole plant to whole person medicine and healing tips. Today, being July 1st, I'm excited to say and celebrate that it's the 1-year anniversary of Vermont cannabis legalization. If that isn't enough of a reason to celebrate, let's add in the 4th of July and concurrently talk about ways to celebrate with cannabis. As Plant Before Pills puts it, since the 4th of July is all about celebrating freedom, what better way to exercise your rights than by taking your dose of cannabis? Plant Before Pills gives us several fun and fantastic recipe ideas on how to incorporate CBD oil infusions this holiday. Please note that either CBD cannabis oil or THC cannabis oil can be used in all recipes I'll mention today. It wouldn't be a July 4th celebration without some grilling and fireworks, now would it? So how about a new recipe for grilled meats with cannabis-infused barbecue sauce? Two of my favorites are grilled corn on the cob and macaroni and cheese. Consider using some sort of cannabis butter on your grilled corn and in your favorite mac and cheese recipe, or visit Plants Before Pills for detailed recipes of their medicated mac and cheese as well as their cannabis-infused barbecue sauce. To refresh and cleanse your palate, I would love to have some mango mint cannabis lemonade. After blending half a mango with about a dozen tablespoons of water, add some fresh squeezed lemons, half a cup of sugar, 5 cups of water, a few drops of cannabis oil, some mint to taste, mix and enjoy. As for an alcohol-based beverage, how about a glass of what they call Casa Independence Day? This recipe calls for a liter of Casamigos Blanco tequila, but can easily switch this up for your preferred alcohol. Blend 17 strawberries, 17 blackberries, and then strain with unbleached cheesecloth. Add 17 ounces of fresh lime juice, 10 ounces of simple syrup, and don't forget to add a splash of your cannabis tincture and ice to make this a cool and collected cocktail. Visit Cannabis Now to learn how to make your base cannabis simple syrup for what they call your marijuana mocktails. This can be used to make some of your favorite drinks or their triple melon magic and lemon weed drop cocktails. They go on to give us many more canna-rich, heady recipes, too, that call for the Super Lemon Haze Cannabis Chemovars. I'm excited to have just harvested this plant myself this weekend from my home grow. This tangy, uplifting chemovar infused into organic olive oil can make a quick and easy Mexican guacamole and a roasted green chili emerald-colored salsa that tastes just as fresh and bright as it looks. Another recipe that caught my eye is cannabis-infused spanakopita quesadilla. This recipe uses pineapple Thai cannabis, a powerful sativa known for its high CBD content, for savory Greek pastries. For a classic American appetizer with a twist, why not make a Caesar salad dressing with a cannabis oil drizzle? As for entrees, I encourage you to check out the recipe for Keef fried chicken or make some cannabis-infused fingerling potato nachos. If sweet is more your style than savory, try a round of 4th of July Chocolate Kush Rocky Road ice cream made with an indica-dominant chocolate Kush